Hello, everyone. This is Mark Stepp, Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve, and we will be starting the Realvolve Labs session here in just a few seconds. I want to let people get online and start with just some prelim information that I need to share with you. Everybody, we will be and are currently recording this, so after the event, if you're not able to stay, you can certainly hear it afterwards, but we would like for you to stay. We're going to have some question and answer sections coming up afterwards that you can type in and see if we can answer any questions that go along with this. On the GoToWebinar control panel, there is a section for questions, and if you do have questions, go ahead and type them in there. Online with me, I have Brianne and Elissa from Workman. Everybody say hi. We're going to do something fun today. This is the Realvolve Labs session. Basically allows one of our users, and if you are interested in doing this, if any of the attendees are interested in doing this with us, I typically take one, maybe two different workflows and go through the process of figuring out what it does, how it does it, why it's useful. And if I see anything in that workflow that might benefit you to make it a little bit better, then I bring that up as well. Not that you have to do it, of course, but it gives you at least a little bit of background on some changes that you might be able to benefit from. So the two that we're going to go over today are the open house on steroids. And actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with that one first. And then we're also going to do the top 50. So the open house on steroids piece is for open houses. But Brianne and Elissa, I really want you guys to give some input on this. First off, what, besides open house, is there a premise for this? I mean, why did you build it? Were there any technical challenges that you were trying to meet in order to use this particular workflow?
Go ahead, Elissa.
Either one?
So the program stems from one of our training programs that we have here at Workman Success, and it's one of the pillars of someone's business in order to get more business from doing open houses. And so the process is called open houses on steroids, which takes someone through a very involved process in order to have the best outcome at their open house. And so it just clearly lists all of the items that need to be done and take place to have an open house on steroids.
Very good. Well, let's just kind of dig into a couple of these and figure out what all you've got on here and see if we can help it at all. So the open house invitations, first thing, you're doing this 0 days after the start date. So the workflow itself is built on 13 activities. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see there's 13 items, of which 3 of them we just do on the first day that we start this, and then there's a few things that are before and after the actual open house date. So we're going to hit a couple of these. First thing that you're doing here is the open house invitation. So tell me about what your need is here.
So it's essentially a checklist of items that we would do in order to have our invitation sent out and everything else inside the system for the open house on steroids. And you can, if you scroll down slightly, you can see some of those items in more detail. But it involves coming up with a plan on how to email all your invitations out. There's some door knocking, possibly not in this step, but throughout all of the items, there's either checklists with additional items just to get them to execute on that particular task.
Very good. So the listing coordinator does this on a particular property. So you just listed a property, you're getting ready for the open house, and you start this workflow as it goes through starting the workflow. The majority of these, or all of these, let me just see real quick here. All of these are for the listing coordinator. Yeah. Oh no, some listing agent items as well. So the 2 main roles that are being played here are listing coordinator and the listing agent.
The other cool thing with this one that you're actually on is if you scroll back up, you'll see that it says nosy neighbor. And so these invitations are specific to actually, like you said, Elissa, specific to door knocking that actual neighborhood. And you can say, hey, your neighbors are selling, come be nosy and see what's going on. And it allows you to pick up the leads from the neighborhood, and maybe someone's interested in moving, or maybe they have a buyer for that property.
Very good. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Nosy neighborhood, but if they are good by your terms, I'm all for it. So awesome. Um, so the one question I do have right at this point here, the checklist is great. That's awesome. The one question I have though is, at this point, whenever you're starting this workflow, do you already know the open house date and time?
Yes.
Okay, so just as a recommendation or a suggestion here at this point, I would go ahead in the checklist. You've got all these different checklist items. I would go ahead, if you're not already putting it in somewhere else, kind of as a prelim type thing, going ahead and using our bracket open house date and time. Now we have open house 1 and 2. Basically, it's the open house date and the open house time, which is down here a little
So
further.
in our listing properties workflow, we do have the task to set
Okay.
and schedule the open house with the bracketed to-do checklist. It's a great idea to bring it on over here, but it's a precursor
It's already been done by
to
this
the
time.
other
Perfect.
process. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So don't have to worry about that. But just as a note, if you're going through and you're creating something and it's a brand new thing, you can use within the checklist, these are just static checklists. You can go through, create merge field checklists to make sure that whatever value that you want to be emailing out later is entered at that time. So very good. So this one looks good. Very, very good besides that. So the next step on this really is emailing out to the lenders. Now, I love this idea. This particular one, you've got in your database, you have how many lenders do you normally invite to these things? All of them, or just certain ones, or how do you normally do that?
Typically, each team has those preferred lenders that they work with, and some of them do. I mean, when I do my open houses, I have one specific lender that I utilize, but others have multiples that they rotate through. Some
Okay.
states allow you to have more than one. It doesn't feel as competing or conflicting, so it kind of really depends on the team. But at this point, we've usually associated a team member in the new listing properties for who the lender we would want to be attached.
Awesome. So on this one, I did want to make a little notation on this. So the activity itself is basically a reminder activity to send out an email to all your lenders, or lender if there's only one, that if asking them if they want to attend. Now, this tag field that we have here, I want this to be really clear. This tag field is tagging the activity as just being an open house lender. So I don't really think this is what you really want here. Typically, tags are typically left blank, but you can tag any activity for any particular purpose so that you can find that one activity easily. In the with field, this is where we really want to put the information. We want to send this email. In this case, it is an email. We want to do this with anyone that's tagged with open house lender. So prior to our little conversation, I just happened to notice this item was just selected as none, and we really want to make sure that we have it selected as anyone tagged with open house lender. So you might have one person that you use all the time for open house and you just tag them. You could come in here and say specific contact in that case. The challenge with that would be if you change a lender, you'd have to come in and change the workflow, where all you really need to do is just take off the tag of open house lender, add it back into somebody different, and it would still work. So just a little
Okay,
key
great.
there. Everything else looks good. It's this one is done same type of thing, 0 days after you start the workflow. So just as soon as you start it, it sends out an email. The email itself is just an open house email to the lender. Pretty standard stuff there. So take a quick look at the email. Yeah, so this is a good reason why that first question I had is, do you have the open house date and time? Here's an email that's getting ready to go out to somebody and you're using merge fields. So just want to make sure that those fields are filled in prior to it being sent out. So, but if you do that in a previous activity, that's awesome. All right, so nothing big there. Then the open house checklist. So we've got another checklist. Is there a reason why we've got two different checklists? They're both being done 0 days after start date. Is there rhyme or reason to that?
I think the first one were everything that needed to be done in order to create the invites and send the invites, where this one is more of a, you should start it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be completed on the
Okay,
same day. So they're
gotcha.
kind of could be standalones.
Okay, so here's a thought, especially on this one. I mean, this is something you probably want to do first, second, and then third, which is fine the way they are. We do have this priority and order field on this particular one, since you've got 3 items that are all starting on, actually, or there are 4. There might be, yeah, just 3 items. There's 3 items that are all starting on the same date. If something needs to get done prior to the other, or needs to start necessarily, you can use the order field here. So we could change this to a number 3 or 4, or whatever item it is on that same day, just to let you know. You don't have to do that, but that's just a way to order fields. A lot of times people say, well, I want to be able to take an activity and do it before I do something else, but they're both on the same day. That's just the way that you can identify what order you want them displayed in.
Okay, great.
All right, so then that's checklist. Okay, open house email reminder 1 day before the open house. So when do you normally start this workflow? I mean, is it a week
So
before? Is it
it's
how?
typically a 2-week process at a minimum, but a lot of our people are running this at a month. So some of our teams get their listings and they have an intense pre-listing process. And so this would be essentially part of that pre-listing process and part of some of their launch into their actual active listing. But it's typically, you don't have enough time to do all of these steps if you're doing it under 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
Doesn't allow you to get the invites and everything.
Right. So on this particular, actually, I want to go back. I'm going to go back one. I was writing down some notes and I did make a notation on this one. On this checklist one, and it may be the same answer that you gave for the previous one. Here we're checking out, okay, create the open house flyer, and you say here, determine who's placing the signs and determining who agent is hosting. This as a checklist is great. One thing that you can do, if you're not already familiar with it, same type of thing where you can put in bracket, and you can say host, and you can have the open house host. So as a party member to the property, if you're already pre-selecting it, it would be filled in for you in the checklist. But if it's not filled in, you can then select that person from your database and make sure that they get added as well. So this determine who for both the host and for who the sign person is available as well. So we've got a sign installer. Both of those are party members to a property. So if you wanted to put those in there, you could certainly put those in there. And whenever
So
the activity comes up.
with the sign installer, I just don't want it to get, and I think part of the reason we didn't do this is sometimes the open house host is not always the listing agent. It might be a different buyer's agent on the team or somebody that's just on the team. And with the sign installer, that's not the person that's installing the big for sale sign. This is the person that's going and installing the 30 open house today directional signs.
Okay. Is there?
Which is usually an admin on the team.
Okay. And which is fine. It's just a matter of that at least by having this here, the question is, and I'll go ahead and take, I'm not going to save those on there.
The open house
again.
and the open house one was great. The other one we just do have assigned in our listing, our pre-listing process.
So here's the question. In this checklist then, do you send out an email to your sign installer saying, hey, make sure you send out or post the signs? Is that an activity that's assigned to them?
No, typically with the system itself, we're teaching them to run multiple open houses on the same day. And so it's essentially a job description, someone's job. It's just ensuring that who it is that day and that you know is part of that whole system. Again, this is just the checklist, if you will, to the entire system. So it's really on a bigger scale. So there's someone who that is their job, so they don't necessarily receive a specific email for that. But it is something that we need to make sure that, okay, yes, it is assigned, but we don't currently have them in a list to receive an email.
That would be the
Good.
only,
Yeah.
anything, if you put that person in there as an activity, hey, make sure you put the signs out today. That way nothing falls through the cracks. And then by having them in the checklist, that pre-assigns that person so that whenever you send the email, you already know who that email is going to go to, whether they're on your team or not. They don't necessarily have to be on your team to install the sign, but they'd still receive the email saying, hey, make sure you install these signs.
Right. That's a great idea.
Okay, so you're discussing with the open house with your agents in a huddle. That's pretty good. Really not much to that one, is there, other than just a reminder? Yeah. The open house kit, prep open house kit. So what do we got here? Oh wow, nice. A lot of things that you're doing. The folder, all the items. So was there a pain point that caused this one? Typically there is, but
no.
So
So
it's
we
more
just want
just
to
go ahead, Brianne.
Elissa. So with this one, I think that so many agents, when they run open houses, they say, okay, tomorrow we're doing an open house. They put 3 signs out and then they cry because nobody showed up. And so what we've done is we've said, okay, we have agents all over the country that are getting 30, 40 people lines out the door to come to these open houses. What are they doing? And how do we recreate this process? And so we took their list and said, okay, this is what you guys are doing. This is what you have. And then we put that in here and created that piece. So now it's not just, hey, we're going to do an open house tomorrow and hope everything goes okay. It's we have a whole process and a plan for this open house. I can't do it tomorrow because it's a 2-week process at minimum to make sure we have everything in place to make it a real, like an actual real big event. And we want to make sure we have everything in that checklist so that it goes off without a hitch.
That's awesome. Very good. Very good. And let's see. So we've got the pre-open house order. What is this? Oh, order balloons and refreshments. Okay, which is done 1 day before the open house. Okay. Very good. And then, of course, the appointment itself. This is one that I did want to check this one on the win. Okay, so one thing that that you'll want to do on an activity like this. Now, this is the actual appointment itself. Now, does the listing agent actually attend this?
So the way
Typically?
that it's built is that a listing for the program, there is buyers agents and listing agents attending the listing. And so typically it is the listing agent based on the program.
So whenever the listing agent gets this appointment, one thing that I would want to make sure that I do here, and I want to edit this, is on the win, this activity, there's special functionality that we've got built into Realvolve that says, okay, we're going to be using this as 0 days after the open house, which is the day of the open house, but we also want to keep this as the open house time. Certain activities that could have a time can also be assigned to the time. So what happens then is if the time changes for whatever reason, maybe from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock for whatever reason, the activity, if I drag this activity from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock on the calendar, it will automatically change the time on the property itself. So it gives you some real good connections there to make sure that everything is connected properly. And if it were just happened as like, well, we can't do it on Saturday after all, we need to move it to Sunday. You move it to Sunday at 1 o'clock, then everything that's calculated off of that date will change as well, because it knows that because I'm using both date and time here, it knows that this is the actual activity for the appointment itself.
Cool.
All right, so that is the day of. So then also on the day of, you're calling the seller. So what we have here, 0 days after. On this one, I would probably do this as a number 2 since it comes afterwards, really. And then no big deal there. Then you're doing a huddle. What do you do on the huddle? Anything talk about?
So the goal is to have multiple open houses running with the team every week. And so it's a quick huddle to say, hey, we held these 4 open houses. These are the results. This is how many people came. These are the offers we got or didn't get. These are the properties that went under contract. And so it's just so that the team understands what's going on as a whole, because like I said earlier, sometimes the listing agent isn't the one holding the open house. So it's good for them to know what's going on with their properties.
Very good, very good. And then the post open house process. Let me take a look at that. Okay, so we do have entering them into the WSSS lead tracker. Now, for those folks that are not Workman, don't know about Workman, tell us a little bit about what you do and what this lead tracker piece is.
Yeah, so we are a coaching and consulting company, and we focus on building and growing teams. That's kind of our bread and butter, what we're really good at. All of our coaches are either active in the business or have forgotten more about real estate than I'll ever learn in my entire life. And they're still writing curriculum and doing those other things. So we've got some pretty incredible people that we get to crowdsource all of our content development. So when I said I've got agents all over the country where they're getting 30 people at an open house, that's who our coaches are. And so one of the things that we've done is we track everything. So we know how many leads come in from open houses, how many are coming in from Zillow or Sync, or what they're doing with their SOI and their top 50, and what their conversion rates are, because we track all of those numbers. So our lead tracker is just somewhere that we're keeping track of every single lead that comes into the system and the source, so we know where to put the money and the funds for next year.
Very good, very good. Yeah, the really neat thing about Realvolve and the Workman relationship that we've got a lot of coaches using Realvolve, and what's neat is they're able to do the things that they want to be able to do, within Realvolve that you really can't do in some of the other packages. So it's been kind of fun helping and exploring the possibilities there. So very good, very good. And we're going to also provide a link to where they can find out more about Workman as well.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. Okay, so that's pretty much. And so as far as success with this, do you have any kind of information that you can share as far as how well it's received, and is it better than other things that they've done? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit. Just can't do something the next day.
Do you have something, Elissa?
So as I said before, it's part of one of our core training programs. And so we're seeing a lot of success when the team leaders and the team members are running the open house on Steroid. And before, you didn't have an action plan workflow to work through. It was just like, these are the steps you need to do. And so now we've really been able to marry the two systems. So here's the training and the principles, and then here's the duplicatable system. And so it's made it a little more painless for those people who have to do 3 or 4 open houses every weekend, so they can just do the steps that they need to when they need to, and then excuse me, then they don't have to think about the rest.
Yeah, this is awesome. I hear a lot of agents around using Realvolve and stuff, and they talk about, oh, I use it for lead gen, or I use it for new listings or whatever, and they don't always think about what are some of the ancillary things, additional things that you can use it for besides the three main things: leads, new listings, and closings. But open house, anything that you do over and over again, create a workflow, make sure you go through it, make sure that there's things that you put into it to prevent you from letting things fall through the crack. So it's very awesome. Anything else on the open house you guys want to say?
No, I don't think so.
Hey,
Very
Mark,
good.
the talking box here, Michael, and we've got a question from Steve. He's asking if you were to use some kind of a form for people as they come in the door, then is there some automation that we can provide there?
Yes, so for those people that use Realvolve, one of the things that we do integrate with is Zapier. So we have a lot of users that create Google Forms, just whatever form that you want with whatever information that you want. You can create a Google form and then use Zapier to zap that information straight into Realvolve. So if you hand them maybe an iPad of some sort, they type in their first name, last name, maybe an email or phone number, and hit submit, then it could send that information from the Google form straight into Realvolve. It actually goes through to Google Sheets first, then goes into Realvolve. And at that same point, it could even put them on some kind of workflow if you want. So by the time they look at the house, they come back out, they could already have something in their email. Hey, thank you for visiting our open house. Appreciate the time, looking forward looking at it. If there are other needs that you have, let me know. We also have other houses in the same price range or area that you might be interested in. Please let me know, blah, blah, blah. So you can do all kinds of things immediately before they even get out the door and not even have to do any kind of data entry. So good question.
Perfect. And then Annette is asking, how might someone get access to this workflow? And so, Bree, maybe you've got an answer on that one?
So all of our Workman Success clients have access to our workflows, but we're not selling them. And so I don't have a better answer for you than that.
No, perfect. So it is part of your program. It's something that you guys make available to all of your clients. Great. Yep. That's a great answer. So, feel free to steal some concepts and ideas that you see here, but outside of that program, then it wouldn't be available. And then one last question. Well, we've got a couple that are coming in. A couple of these I'll hold off on, but Bill, and I think Bill is actually one of your clients. He's asking about the ability for us to autofill the lead tracker. And Mark, I know you've been working on some stuff there, so I'll let you answer that one, and then we can jump to that next workflow.
Yeah, so we are 99.9% done with some of the capabilities there. I just had our team release some additional fields, which has some of the additional lead fields that we needed for that report. You'll be hearing more about that soon. We do have a Google add-on. If you go out to Google Sheets and look at their add-on library, there's a Realvolve add-on library where you can add on additional record information into a Google Sheet. And I'm getting ready to post an update to that, which includes all of the lead field merge fields that can bring that information straight from Realvolve into the Workman spreadsheet. So that's very close. I just have to get it approved by Google.
So Bill, it'll take a lot of our trackers, the transaction tracker, the lead tracker, and some of the other pieces that are in there based on the information that's in Realvolve. So we won't have to do double entry on a lot of that stuff. So the integration will be really neat when it's finished.
That was one of the neat tools that through this relationship that we've built with Workman, it's like, well, it's not too hard to bring that data in. Let me hook up the API and do that. And it's been a good challenge for me to make that available to you. So we're almost there for you guys to have access to that. Any other questions on this?
We're good for now.
Good for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly move into the top 50. So tell me about top 50. What's the idea here on this one?
Okay, so we wrote and released an ebook called 8651, and it's how to sell 86 transactions working with 50 people 1 hour a day. So I'm going to post in the chat here in just a second a link so that everyone on this webinar can have access to that ebook. But basically what it is your top 50 is anyone in your sphere of influence that you know, like, and trust that you can count on to give you at least one referral a year. And so at the end of the year, anybody that's on that list that didn't give you at least one referral, we replace them with somebody else who will or who did. And eventually, you're going to get more than one referral from this list of people, which is how we closed 86 transactions working with 50 people 1 hour a day. So this workflow is more specifically for the team leader to be sending out to the team members, reminding them to touch base with their top 50 every month. And so it's just giving them different ideas of what to do each month and making sure that those tasks are actually happening.
Very good. So on this one, instead of it being to the listing agent or to the listing coordinator, it's actually the record owner. So whoever is the record owner of a particular record is going to get this activity. And you're starting this on the agent themselves. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay, so first thing it does is just sets up some activities for that agent to say, hey, start a Facebook past client page. Everybody should have that. Start a Facebook top 50 page. Great idea, we need to have that. So these are all just different things that they need to do. Now, the first question I had on this, and it could just be because you didn't know about it at the time you created this, is there a reason why you have separate activities versus a checklist?
So this was one of the first ones that we did, and so that is one of the reasons.
Okay.
Just the capability.
Trial and error. We got
understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and to make sure everybody knows what I'm talking about there, we've got 5 different activities. They're all 0 days after start date. And they're just one piece of something that needs to get done. And it's fully acceptable to do this. There may be reasons why you want to do this versus another reason. Maybe you want to do one before you do the other and do them in a certain order, possibly. That's something very viable. But what you can do, just like we had the checklist before, you could put all 5 items in the checklist for one activity, and it just be an activity that says, hey, do these 5 things before this one activity is considered complete. That way, you can reduce the footprint or the amount of space that's being used on your calendar down to just one item instead of 5. But nevertheless, it's important to have these 5 items done. So either way works. Okay, so after that's done, then, and this is something that people ask about, and you're utilizing it here. You have every month, there's some kind of something, an email that goes to that agent that they need to do, and they are on specific days. So what you basically have is on April 21st, it says 2020. Whenever you're using a specific, let me go ahead and go to this real quick. On the schedule piece right here, whenever it says a specific date, the year technically is, you pick it because it's a calendar item, but that year is actually ignored. So whenever you start this workflow, and maybe it says April, if it had April of 19 or 2019 on there, it would recognize that it's already passed. It's something that's April 21st of 2019 is already gone by. So bump it to the next available specific date year. So it will actually go to the 2020. No matter what month or year that you've got in here, it'll go to the next available one that's available. This is useful for like New Year's Eve, holiday, certain ones that you want to do holidays. You can just set a specific day of the year that you want it to be sent, and then it'll bump it to the next available date, no matter when you start it. So I want to make sure that you've got there. So each one of these, then you're just going through and you're identifying something for that month then for them to do with their clients. Is that?
So we were trying to make it really, really easy for these buyers agents and these listing partners. you have to do something. So it's a personal touch, whether it's going to lunch or doing a client event, whatever it is. And so we were just giving them extra ideas on different things that they could do. And they don't have to do this for each person in their top 50, but maybe this month they decide to go to lunch every Thursday. So that only takes care of 4 of those people in their top 50. And then one of these items can take care of the rest. So they're still having that personal touch, but then it also appeals to the mass of the rest of the group.
Awesome.
Down to the marketing message that they would create as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And then the rest of these are all basically the same type of thing, just different months, different ideas. And
then I think if you click on October's as an example,
okay,
it should have a client event. And so the October's client event is booing. Maybe, let's see.
Yeah, October
should be booing. And so this one is something that we do as a team.
You've been booed.
And
yep.
Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're doing it. And we do it the same every single time with the team. And so you'll be able to see, okay, this is what we're doing as a team, or you can do these ones individually.
Yeah. And I think, if I remember right, Jackie Egan, one of your coaches as well, has set up an entire activity workflow for just this one event for her to keep track of all the different things that she does through that process, which is awesome as well. And that is a great idea. Just giving it some kind of theme for that particular month. That's awesome.
Yeah. So once they've got it down and they've done it once or twice, then we highly suggest that they put it into a workflow for something that can be repeatable. So we build it into their agile and into their sprints, and then say, okay, now go build the workflow. Since you've done this a couple times and you know what's working, here's what we're going to do every single time, so they can go through that checklist.
Super. All right. Well, the October is a great one. Is there any other great ideas for any of the other months?
Yeah, so in March or April, November, we do Thanksgiving pie giveaways, which is another great one. And then go ahead.
Just to go with that, the same type of thing that we were talking about with open houses, using forms, Google Forms, you could be sending out on the email, you could send an email out to your clients saying, hey, click on this link to order your pie type, and it sends the name, email, and phone number of that contact with their pie selection to Google Sheets, which then comes back through a Zap into Realvolve and automatically classifies them as a particular pie type in their tags. So then you can pull up everybody that has a certain pie type and do things with it as well. So something that you can do there. Very cool.
December, we do pictures of Santa. Easter-ish time, we do egging. So similar to booing, we put little signs in their yards and hide Easter eggs. Some of the other things instead of egging we've had teams do that have been fantastic is cake. And so last year I had a couple of teams that did a big cake event instead of the pie event, and they actually had a lot more people come out for those Easter cakes, carrot cake or whatever kind of cakes they wanted. So we've got a couple of really great things that are in here.
Okay, so I want to backtrack one. You said you put a sign in their yard with eggs, so you actually become the Easter bunny. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, basically. Sweet. And so they've got big signs that says you've been egged by the Workman team, and then they get like a little note that says there's 10 Easter eggs hidden around your yard, and they get to find the eggs. And the same thing with the booing. Yeah. So with the booing, it says you've been booed by the Workman team, and they get a little bag of candy for whatever they have, or cookies or whatever. So
and then the neighbors that come by, they look at that and say, well, why didn't I get egged?
Right. And so it's fun with our clients that have big communities. So with the egging and the booing, we don't just do top 50, we do past and current clients. And so with our clients that have big communities, it's fun to see every other house that's been egged or booed.
Love it. Awesome ideas there. Guys, if you aren't drawing from this good ideas, you're missing out. This is some good stuff. So, all right, so got about 5 more minutes. Any questions that we want to hit on real quick, Michael?
Yeah, going back to following up with the open house, there was a question about integrating with any kind of like inbound text. So we don't currently do text codes, but there is a way that we can have something set up within our settings. And then Mark, maybe in your mad scientist way, you've got a way to maybe zap in something through another service?
Yeah, we do have, depending on what you're wanting to do, within our, and this will be changing, I hope, first quarter, but we're SMS service. So right now, actually this one's not even set up. Right now you can come in here and you can specify information about your SMS. There's also an option that allows you to pick if somebody does text you that isn't known, it'll create them as a contact, and there's some ways where you can hook up Zapier to do a lookup of that person and be able to send some information in there. And I think I've got that in a help item, but I'm not sure. I'll look and see if I can make that available. But yeah, there's lots of services out there that you can do things with Zaps. Zaps are crazy and awesome at the same time, and you just gotta really think outside the box, and you can really make them do some neat things. So, anything else? Or did I miss something there?
Nothing that's come up so far. So I guess any other questions from the crowd at large?
In that ebook, also, there's a bunch of ideas in the back on different things to do with each month. So it's got some really great resources in it as well.
Okay, did you post that yet in the chat?
I did. It's in the chat. So
Okay,
if you look at it in the chat, and it's just workmansuccess.com/real lab.
Real lab.
Yep.
Workmansuccess.com, real lab. So go to that, fill out the information to get the ebook, and you'll be getting some more good resources there. Very good. Anything else?
Somebody was looking for that link again, so just one more time, check in the chat there. And if you're having trouble finding that, again, it's workmansuccess.com/real lab. And an all caps thank you from someone for the ebook. So thanks, ladies, for that. Let's see. I think this was more of an idea, but they were just saying rather than trying to bring open house material, then you can, in quotes, make the prospect text a code to get the info, which that's a great idea. So if you do have a good texting service that you could zap that content in, that data into Realvolve, great idea there. Let's see, now they're starting to come in. Well, hi, Brandon. Let's see, will there be a way to see who is texting you back through a Realvolve number?
Yes, so whenever, unless they specifically put in *69 or 67, you have the phone number. If that phone number is a throwaway, you're not going to be able to get anything, but you can use services like White Pages or what's the other one? There's a couple of them that are on Zapier where you can do a reverse lookup of a phone number and bring that information in to Realvolve through a Zap.
Got it. Eagle Eyes Jeff here saw in one of the activities that there was a Facebook past client page mentioned. Can you guys speak to what that is and how you use it?
Yeah, so we build a Facebook page that's specific to our past clients, and it's just a really easy way to keep track of them. And it's more for the agents than it is for the past clients. It's just kind of grouping them together so that at a glance, I can see everything that's going on with my past clients, go in, like, comment, so that I'm staying front of mind.
Do you tend to get good responses from that? I mean, I'm curious. Do people spend time in there?
So it's not a group for them. It's not like I'm not creating a group. There's a way in Facebook to create your own kind of group that's like a private, only you can see what's happening in that group, if that makes sense. And the biggest thing for that, like I said, it's just so that I know what's going on with my past clients. So if I've got 10 minutes to quickly jump into Facebook and see what's going on, I can like and comment on my past clients because it will help me generate those referrals and keep me top of mind of that SOI.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Great idea.
We do have a lot of people who actually have a group for their top 50. And for instance, one of our coaches, Brooke Signs, she has so much engagement where her top 50 are now friends. So they attend all of her past client or top 50 events each month. And now they are coming to the event because they are now friends. And so she has created a space and an environment from that sense where not only is she getting referrals, but the people inside her group that have different trades are also getting referrals and friends. And so depending how hard you work at your specific groups and your pages will determine the output of it. But there are two separate things as far as an engagement group where someone can be added and join and comment. And then there's more of a personal group where you can just say, hey, I want to see all my past clients. And then you can easily identify all of the posts that they're making where you can then
you don't have to worry about all the posts in between of other people that are not past clients. You're just grouping all your past clients together. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yep. That's perfect. Yep.
It's kind of a practical question here. Someone's asking how much, maybe approximately, that you might spend on the marketing for the open house. Any guesses?
Good question.
It kind of depends because when you're doing certain things, obviously the more number of open houses that you have, the cheaper the marketing would be because you're going to be ordering larger quantities. But essentially the few basic items we have is your nosy neighbor flyer, which is, you could go as elaborate as printing it at a print shop to printing it on your printer. And then the other item would be some of them do a postcard. If they're early in enough, they do the postcard. And you want to send that within at least a mile radius, sometimes targeting other areas. And then at the open house itself, you would have, some light refreshments and, balloons, just to kind of create that engagement where some of our teams have purchased material that they reuse every time. So that cuts the cost. Every open house, they're not purchasing balloons, but they maybe have their own pop-up. And so I would say on an ongoing basis, there's not a huge dollar amount to those. It's just following the process and then what people experience when they're there that generates the leads. Because at the end of the day, even if only 5 people came through, the way you run the open house is going to allow you to turn them into true prospects, where you're going to get your return on your investment that way. So as far as the marketing is, per the to-do on the open house on Steroid here, it's very light, but you could all go really elaborate with it as well.
I can't tell you the number of open houses that I've gone to just because knowing different agents and going to them, support them and stuff, and comparing it to some of the people that don't have systems in place, just how much better they are. It's obvious that they've prepared for them and know what they're doing, and they have fun with it. If I can go to it and see smiles and stuff like that versus somebody just sitting there, doing something on their phone, just day and night difference. So.
And it's the difference of the agents that say open houses don't work and the ones that say open houses are awesome. And so I think another huge part of that with the initial cost is the signs. All of our open houses, we want 30 signs pointing to those houses from all of the main streets, because that's how you drive that traffic that's just wasn't even thinking about showing up, and then they do.
Yeah. Very good, ladies. Well, this has been awesome. I thank you so much for sharing your time and your resource here. The whole Workman series of workflows and stuff are quite nice. I had the opportunity to go through and actually build some of these initially for you guys, and just the ideas and concepts that you guys put into these were very thoughtful, and it was very a very good experience for me. It was tough because there's a lot of different things in there that you guys come up with, but it was pretty neat. So lots of different ideas. The open house and the top 50. Maybe some other time we can go over some of the other ones just to share some ideas with that too. But very good, girls. I appreciate everything that you've done. If you guys don't have anything else, we'll call this a wrap.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. We'll talk to you later. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.